and I'm also an independent, close to my heart demonstrator. I have another project for you today using the Cricut Flower Market collection and some recycled sconces left over from my daughter's wedding. To begin the project, I logged into Cricut Design Space and I started a new project, and then I uh, selected I want to insert an image, and then I typed Flower Market in the upper right hand corner. And since I've purchased the Flower Market cartridge, I know it's there. And so it's at the top, and I'm selecting that. There's 329 images in this cartridge that you can choose from. And it takes it a minute to load them all. Okay, the top two that I want there are the mum and the daisy. And then I'm going to choose a tree branch that I want to put in my arrangement. And then I thought I would just go through the cartridge for you so that you can see all of the images that are included in the cartridge. Some of these are multi-layer, some are single layer. You can change the colors to suit your color palette. You can make these print and cut using your own printer, and then putting that colored paper on, or your printed paper onto your mat, and then have your Cricut cut it out. Um, or you can, and then some of these are 3D, so it's got the different layers of flowers, and then some of them they're not 3D, they're just going to be a flat image when you cut them out and glue them together and put them on your project. And they can be resized to whatever size you want. So, if you have a die, it is what it is. But with the Cricut cartridge, these images are whatever size you want them to be. You could make a big canvas with them, or you can make a greeting card or a tag. So really, the sky's the limit with the Cricut cartridge. All of the seasons are on this. There are pine trees and happy Halloween and spring images. So I selected what I wanted and I put them back into my onto my design canvas. And this is I don't know, probably confusing for you to watch. There's different ways to change the colors on these, and the flowers that I'm using are actually yellow and kind of the burgundy family or the rust family. And but I just left them as pink and blue because it was going to take too long, and what I'm just going for is 4 variations of the blue and 3 variations of the pinks, and because I'm going to use 3 different yellows and 4 different reds. So, and actually, because there's more colors than that here originally, but I'm using paper that has the double-sided and it's a lighter shade of the same color on the back. So I'm really getting 8 colors and 6 colors instead of just the 4 and the 3. So yeah, like I said, there's 2 different ways that you can change colors. You can go in and sync, and you can pull the colors up or down, or the icons to make things the same colors, or you can select that image and that, like the individual flower, and you can change the color in the other menu, in the edit menu. Then I ended up wanting more of the leaves and more of the branches, and then I grouped them together so that they would all cut on one mat together. And so to do that, I multiplied them, or I copied and pasted and made as many as I needed, which I wanted 12 of them. And then, of the sticks, I made 6. I flipped them around, and then I made the most of my space to get them to kind of nest into one another, so it wouldn't waste any more paper than I needed to. And then once I had them arranged the way I wanted to, I selected all of them, and then I selected um, I can't see my buttons here to tell you. I selected not weld, but attach. Yes, so I attached them, and then they would all cut as the way I have them on the mat. Other than that, Cricut will kind of arrange them the way they want to arrange them, and sometimes it wastes a little bit of paper. So I kind of like to group them together. And then I go back because I wasn't really happy the way it was going to cut out. And so in a minute here I'm going to go back and regroup things because I just didn't like how it was working out. And I made that square there to represent the cutting mat so I could see the size and how many I could fit on there. So I'm not going to leave that. I'm going to delete it when I'm done, but it's just a visual for me so that I can make my leaves and group them all together. And then once I have as many as I want and have them arranged the way I want, I will get rid of the background mat, and then I will select all of the green leaves, and then I will attach them like I did the sticks. And there I'm grouping them, and then I'm attaching them. So now I'm ready to cut again, and I'm showing you here all the different cutting mats, and it shows the different colors so you know what paper to grab next. And so they're like the sticks were brown, the leaves were green, but then the blue papers represent the different rust colors I was using. The pinks were the yellows. So it's a little confusing, but it was going to take a little extra time. There's the tools that I like to use to take my images off of the sticky mat, and I love that spatula. I didn't end up using the other tools, but here I wanted to show you that I'm making the most of my time. I'm preloading the mats while things are cutting, and I'm taking things off of the mats while things are cutting, and I've just got to I'm just trying to make the most of my time here. And you can see there to the right's my color palette, and there's the Cricut Flower Market cartridge, and I'm showing you the two flowers that I chose. And there you see, if you get the physical cartridge, you get this book with it, and that shows all the icons. And if you don't have Design Space, you can still use it with the older machines with the rubber overlay, and you can choose which icons and size them that old-fashioned way. I haven't done that for years, so honestly I don't even remember how to do that anymore. There's the flower that I'm going to be making, and I just wanted to show that to you. And there's the yellow one. I kind of made some samples up ahead of time to see what colors I wanted. And there's the sticks that I made, and that was out of some of the Cricut. Well, it's all close to my heart paper, but I was using one of the new neutral colors, and then I switched to the the brown. It's a thicker brown paper. It was harder to cut. That's showing you the samples, the colors I used, and you can see that they're two colors. They're lighter on the back than the front. And there you see my color palette. I'll put the colors up on the screen for you. So there's the sconce. These were left over from my daughter's wedding, and I haven't used them for years. And I have a wall in my living room that I don't have anything on that I thought would look good. And there I'm showing you the what I put in the flower centers. Okay, so I've kind of cut parts out, but here are some of the cut out flower parts. So as I went, I was trying to group them together because there's going to be 6 flowers of each color. And I tried to keep them separate, and that is my best advice to you. If you're cutting out multiple flowers, try to keep it organized, and so that you do not get confused, because each one of these flowers had a lot of layers, and if I did not have those organized, that would have been a real mess, because like I said, the colors are similar. Then you've got the other color on the back side, and it could just really be hard. So be organized. I'd like to say be neat, but as you can see, my workspace isn't really all that neat. So here is how I bent the flowers to give them some dimension. And I tried to do this while I was waiting. It took quite a while to cut out the flowers. And so while I was waiting, I tried to make the most of my time by bending those flowers. And that's like a embossing tool. Boy, I had a lot of trouble getting those tree branches up, and I had a lot of footage of that I cut out. So once I had those cut out, which by the way, I cut way too many of them, I'm using the dual action glue pen, which I love that glue. It's it's a watery type glue, but it is really sticky and it holds really well. If you wanted a removable glue, you would put the glue down and let it air dry and then use it, and then it would not be permanent. But I want these to stay, so I want it to be permanent. So I'm just gluing that on, and I'm using a silicone mat so the glue won't stick to it. And I'm laying down the glue, and I'm putting 3 layers together just so that these will be a little thicker. And then I used a brayer to really adhere them down, and they're really stuck tight. So here I'm taking some more flowers off of the mat, and I just wanted to show you that process. Although I sped this up so it wouldn't be such a long video, and it's kind of difficult to see it. It's so sped up. This project in total took several hours, but the time was well spent. I really had a lot of fun making these, um, and it's really turned out well. And so, you know, even though it took a lot of time, see now there I'm showing you the paper that it's double-sided. It's the same color, but it's a different hue, I guess you would say. And so it really wouldn't matter which, since these are symmetrical, it wouldn't have mattered which side I laid down, but I just wanted to show you that. So here I have all of my pieces cut out, and I went through, or now I'm going through, and I just wanted to show you that I ended up getting some of them mixed up. And so I just decided I'm going to make 6 piles, and I'm going darker to darker, and then I'm trying to alternate because I've got some that are different. So I'm going like darker, then a little lighter, then it goes darker and lighter and lighter. And so I just really wanted to go largest to smallest. And so then I tried to alternate, and some of them are so close in size, it was hard for me to tell. And then I had the double-sided, so I'm trying to just rearrange them. And so this took a little time, and there's the finished product, all my little piles, and I have 6 lines. And so I'm just going to go down the line and just curl all the edges one after another. And then I kind of stacked them up, which they kind of stuck to one another. It was a little hard to get them out once I got them in there, but I didn't glue them at this time. I'm kind of doing the assembly line process here and trying to decide there. The colors are so similar that I'm trying to decide. I want to alternate them just to give a little depth. And you know, I've seen people that ink up the edges of their flowers, and I really found that it wasn't necessary because of the double-sided paper having the different colors. There was a lot of depth of color in this, a lot of shadows and highlights just from that different colors of paper and the multiple layers. I mean, you can see there's probably like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's probably like 8 layers in this mum. And it really is a full pretty flower when it's all done. And the daisy didn't have as many layers. It's like maybe 6, but they still are very full and very pretty. And I'm not going to show you all 6 rows of flowers. I just show you the first row of the rust colored flowers, and then I'm going to show you, I think, doing a yellow flower. So I just kind of laid them all out and put them in my order of kind of, there's dark and then lighter, and I think those are 3 different colors there. And then there's 3 different colors in the bottom. I ended up using the light color twice. And so anyway, I'm curling my ends again. And I don't think I curled these as much as I curled the other one. And you know, I've also seen some people wet their flowers and crumple them, or they wet them to get them. I didn't find that this was necessary. I just love the Close to My Heart paper because it's a great texture. It cuts beautifully with the Cricut. And then I found that doing stuff like this, it did not rip, and it moved, or it bent very well. So I've made flowers before, and I'm pretty sure it's going to hold its shape. I don't think I'm going to have any problem with that either. Maybe at Christmas time I'll change out my flowers in my sconces and maybe make some poinsettias. But I just painted my living room not too long ago, and I painted it kind of a creamy yellow color. And so these flowers are a little bit darker than the color in my living room. And then the rusty colored flowers, they are just a good contrast. Okay, so now once I get all my flowers curled, then I'm going to go back and glue. And I'm using the liquid glass glue, and that is a very strong adhesive, and it is also very quick drying. When I was gluing the backs and the floral wires onto these flowers, I had to hold it with my hands for just a few minutes, but that's all it really took, and it was on there. So it's just a very good glue. It's kind of sticky. I mean, after gluing those twigs together and then gluing these on, there wasn't a lot of squish out the edges of this, but I really did have to wash my hands later. I had glue all over me. So that stylus that's laying there that I curled my flowers with is not from Close to My Heart, but Close to My Heart does sell a stylus, and I actually got one in the mail right after I was done doing this project. So I didn't get to use my Close to My Heart one, but I have one now, which is pretty cool. Okay, and then I'm gonna I put the glittery, the gold glitter gems in the middle of the ruby colored flowers, and then in the center of the daisies, I use the enamel gems. And the package says enamel gems gray, but there's two colors of gray and white that are all in that package. And I use the white. So, and then when the centers of these daisies was a little circle, and I used the canary ink, and I used a piece of the sponge that I cut out of the wedge, like it's a circle sponge, and I cut mine into 8 wedges, and then I used that. I just dabbed it in the ink, and I inked up the edges. And the first one I did, I used the mat, and I kind of inked up around the edges while it was laying down. But all the others, I did that. I just picked it up and I just put some ink around the edges of it, and that was a lot easier, and it didn't get on my mat. So I put that in the center, and then I just wanted a little bit of extra something in the middle there to, just make it look a little bit prettier. All right, so I'm ready to put the backs on that, and so I saw somebody else do this in a video, and only I didn't do mine just like theirs. But so I'm just cutting a circle out of this coordinating cardstock, and I'm just trying to use up the scraps so that I don't want to waste any of my paper. I just love this paper so much, and so I'm just trying to use up, getting those nooks and crannies to use all the space I can. And that coordinates with the ruby colored flowers. And so anyway, I've got some floral wire that I just picked up probably at Walmart, and I cut them in half with some wire snips, so because I didn't need them to be that long. And actually I ran out, and I ended up using just a scrap of a piece I cut off after I started building it. They were a little actually too long. I probably could have cut them in thirds instead of half. But anyway, and then I just put some of that liquid glass on the back, and then I took that wire, and then I put that circle over the top of it, and I just held it there for just a little bit. And that one, of all the ones I had to show you, that was the one that kind of came off. But after I just held it for a minute, and it's good. They're all good. So then I made those, I cut out the leaves, and what I ended up doing was just turning over one of the edges. And I tried, because it was two-toned cardstock, I tried to do some on one side, some on the other, so that I would get a variation in the greens, and then some I did on the left and some I did on the right, just so they all wouldn't be exactly the same. And on this one, you don't have to just stick with it. I ended up putting that up kind of high, and so it looked kind of funny. So then I just cut down to make it meet at the wire, and then they're not all the same either. So there's my sconce, and I just stuffed some foam down in it. I cut it with there's a spatula thing there, and I mean, that foam is so easy to cut. So I went with the rule of threes, and so I put one flower in the center. I wish I had my camera over a little bit or scooted over a little to do this, but I put the 3 yellow flowers and made like a triangle. So, and then I went through with the ruby colored flowers, and I filled in and also kept a triangle. And that's just something I learned at a flower arranging class I took once. And then those, there I was trying to find one that looked really good, and those are my sticks, and even though they're paper, they still poked into that foam really well. But that's why I wanted to do 3 of them glued together. Then I had a what do you call it, like a bush of fall flowers that I'd picked up actually years ago and just had it in my stash. And I just thought it was so pretty at the time, but never used it. And so today I was getting out some of my fall decorations, and that was in there. And I thought that is just perfect. So I pull them apart. I never use them like the bush. Like, I never would just take a bush of flowers and boom, throw it in a vase. I always pull them out and trim them. And, you know, when you use foam, you can place them exactly where you want them to go. And so, again, I'm not on the camera, but I'm picking out the flowers that I want, and I'm pulling them out. And I had already made one of these, and so I'm just trying to pick the exact flowers that I had. And the first one, it all came out in one clump, and then the second one, they were just coming out individually. So I just kind of grouped them all together so they would be like the other sconce that I already made. And I'm just trying to get them where they look good, and then I'm just tucking those in the middle as filler. So these are just accents in my flower arrangement, and I just try to keep everything as balanced as possible. So if I do something on the left, I try to do it on the right, and I try to make them where they're going either opposite directions or they're going in the same direction. And so there's both of them, and they're balanced and even. So I'll show you some pictures of them hanging on my wall. Thanks for joining me today, and you can get this flower market cartridge through Close to My Heart, and I'd be happy to sell that to you. And I'll leave my information in the description below. I'll put a link to my blog and to my website at Close to My Heart. Thank you.